Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Nathan ELEMENTofFROST, and we are back here yet again doing another episode review for this week's episode of Fear the Walking Dead, which was Season 2, Episode 2, entitled We All Fall Down. So, during my predictions video, I sort of had this theory, why it was called We All Fall Down, and that obviously led back to Ring Around the Rosie. If you guys don't know about that, I'll talk about it a little more, in this episode review. But it actually turned out to be right. You know what I mean? We actually got to see, some of that. And we actually got to compare, what happened before to basically what's happening now. And I thought it was a really, really cool part of the episode when we got to see that. So, this episode was pretty damn good. It was one of the better episodes of Fear the Walking Dead. And I'm happy to get into it. So, without further ado, let's go. Let's go. We All Fall Down, Episode 2, Season 2. Alright, so an infected crawls out of the ocean and creeps towards a boy and a girl playing on shore. And a protective chain link fence stops the infected from reaching them. We actually get to see this in promo and stuff like that for what happens in this season of Fear the Walking Dead. Thought that was really cool. We actually get to finally, see more of like the floaters and how they work and stuff like that. And they kind of just float to shore. They don't swim. They sort of just let the water take them. They don't breathe, so they don't drown. And, they just float. That's it. That's pretty much it. So we get to see this perspective of another family on an island, basically. That's completely, fortunately enough, surrounded by a chain link fence so that these floaters don't actually get to them. Strand monitors the unknown ship on the Abigail's radar. Madison yells at Nick now for endangering himself by jumping in the water after the wreckage of the sailboat. Travis shows up with a logbook that Nick retrieved from the sailboat and says that they have a problem. Travis informs Strand now that, according to the log, the military has already burned San Diego to the ground. Strand basically proposes that they hide from the fast approaching ship by, retreating to the coastline and hiding in some coves and stuff like that. Let's go see if we can find like a deserted island or something, and we can hide from that ship, because they're not letting up. Travis now suggests Katrina Island, which has a ranger station that may offer supplies and a shortwave radio. Travis assures Chris now that they are going to a safe location, and Chris basically asks him, how Travis knows that it's safe. Travis doesn't really have an answer, you know what I mean? It's just the best thing that he has for a plan right now. In a sense, that's basically what Travis is, going for. They want to seek, shelter on a shoreline, and they also want to hide from that boat that has them obviously on their radar and following them at a much faster pace than what the Abigail can go. And he makes the best decision that I think he can make, and they all agree to it. So Abigail approaches Katrina Island. Madison sees a light flash inside of a house, so they know obviously somebody's home. Madison, Travis, Nick, Alicia, and Chris get off the boat. Strand stays on board with Ophelia and Daniel, who wants to monitor Strand. Madison's group approaches the house now that she saw from the boat. A young boy, which was the one actually from the beach, runs out to greet them, and Travis introduces himself to the boy's father. His name is George. And basically asks permission to dock for the night. Basically saying, we just need to, get our bearings and we'll be on our way. Could we have your help? And they actually accept. So they have a little conversation out there. We actually get to see this partially in a sneak peek, them meet and everything like that, shake hands. Thought it was pretty cool. We finally get to see them encounter another group, and it didn't go to hell. You know what I mean? And we're at a point in the apocalypse right now where you can meet another group and, actually have hope instead of just fearing, every single living being. You know what I mean? And instead of being protective. You see somebody alive now. It's early in the apocalypse, so we're still in the phase of, why kill each other, sort of thing. And we're not in the phase of The Walking Dead where, Alexandria is just getting more and more protective, of their group, instead of, just going out there trying to meet everybody that you can. They don't take risks, you know what I mean? But we're still in the early stages of the apocalypse, and everybody doesn't know what to think, you know what I mean? Do we kill them? What's the danger? here. And I feel as, we get to meet more and more groups in Fear the Walking Dead, I feel like we're going to get closer to what it is like in The Walking Dead now. But I guess we'll definitely see, right? I guess we'll see. Okay, so, yeah. Inside the house now, George tells Travis that based on his communication with other ranger stations, he believes the entire country west of the Continental Divide has fallen and the border to Mexico has been completely sealed off. Okay, so they think that Mexico has basically sealed them all in, protecting obviously their own, completely understandable, but who knows if they did, you know what I mean? We don't know. We have no idea. In the kitchen now, George's wife, Melissa, probes Madison basically about her job as a guidance counselor and asks if she ever worked with younger children, sort of quizzing her. And Madison sort of knows this. She notices it. And she finds it sort of strange, and she introduces Madison to her teenage son, Seth. Daniel checks in with Ophelia at the boat. Ophelia says that she's starting to understand the world better, which helps her understand him. And then she says that it's cruel. You know what I mean? I finally see you for what you are, and I'm starting to understand you, right? Because he was a torturer, back in his military days, and she finally starts to, understand that. You know what I mean? She's comparing him to being cruel to this world being cruel now, and that's what we get to see. So shots fired, I guess, is what you could say. Back at the house now, Nick and Alicia play with the little kids, Harry and Willa. Those are the two little kids that they have there. The ones that were on the beach earlier in the episode. Now we're basically getting surrounded by walkers, obviously behind a fence though, luckily enough. Other than that now, Harry brings Nick to his room to show him his action figures with red dots on their forehead, basically representing gunshot wounds, basically saying, I'm conforming to this world. I know that now when you get sick, the only thing that puts you down is a headshot, right? So Harry says that he won't get sick because his family has power pills, and he explains it's like a vitamin. If I take it, my family stays together. So what the hell are power pills, right? We get to actually see, Nick sort of find them a little later. And it doesn't work out well, man. It really doesn't. It's shitty, dude. In the wheelhouse now, Daniel accuses Strand of wanting to basically offload members of the group to conserve his resources. We actually get to see this in another sneak peek. Basically accusing, Strand of, who are you going to leave behind, everything like that. Strand basically suggests, you're a really good fisherman and we have unlimited water. George now tells Travis that the apocalypse is all part of nature's plan. The world couldn't sustain itself, so it stood back and said enough. And basically this is his course correction. So we actually get to hear him say, sort of what Dr. Jenner said back at the CDC in Atlanta in the actual Walking Dead universe back in season 1. We get to hear that sort of quote be said again here in Fear the Walking Dead, and I thought that was really interesting. I'm not sure if you guys, picked up on that, but that whole course correction, that's been used before, right? So we actually get to see that again. I thought that was a really cool crossover, if you will. It was very, very minor, you know what I mean? No characters or anything like that, but it was definitely cool. I liked it. He said that he raised his family on the island and intends for them to stay on the island. As they head back to the boat now, Madison tells Travis that Melissa may have flashed the light on purpose, and she basically speculates that Melissa wants to leave the island but is too scared of George to say so. Because George obviously is so imminent of, wanting to keep his family on the island and wanting, his family to pretty much die on the island. They live there, they die there, that sort of thing. That's what he wants. And Madison is starting to, sort of notice that, right? So on the boat now, Nick gazes at the stars. He muses Alicia to that being able to see the stars without light pollution or smog or, anything like that to block them out. It's an upside to the apocalypse, he basically says. And changing the topic now, Nick tells her that he's concerned about Harry and Willa's future or lack thereof. The next day, Chris sees Seth walking towards the beach with a pickaxe, and Seth brings Chris to the beach where the infected are pounding on the chain link fences. Seth now slams the pickaxe into one of the infected head, and basically invites Chris to take a swing. Come help out, stuff like that. And Chris actually does, right? So Chris actually does. We actually get to see, them sort of managing the fences so that they don't, build up along the fences and eventually get enough weight to bring it down. We get to see that in season 4 of The Walking Dead with like the prison and, stuff like that. I thought that was really, really interesting. Thought that was a cool comparison. I definitely caught on to that. So they're definitely managing the fences just like they did back in The Walking Dead. Travis is now looking for his son, Chris. Chris kills an infected with the pickaxe. Seth basically praises his technique and explains that George taught him how to kill and how to survive. Travis finds them and tells Chris to return to the boat, and he averts his eyes as Chris kills one more infected. So Travis still doesn't really understand that these fucking infected are not people. You know what I mean? They are dead. They're 100% dead. And sure, you don't have to kill every single infected on the universe, right? In the universe. You don't have to, right? There's no necessary for it. They're slow. You can outrun them, stuff like that. I get it, right? But they're behind a fence and they're stopping the buildup of them. It has a point to it, right? Travis, I still don't think quite grasps that. He sort of wants Chris. He wants Chris. I mean, we actually get to see it later in the episode when he's talking to George, basically saying, he recalls, the days when Chris was mowing lawns and taking up garbage and everything like that rather than killing the infected. And George basically assures him, this is how we manage now. This is how we survive. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? This is how we have to live. And I just wish Travis would grasp onto that like a little bit faster and actually start, doing the same thing as Owen. Because if he's not going to, eventually it's going to catch up to him. His son is already starting to adapt. And I think that's a good thing. You know what I mean? I do. And I forgot to put my phone on silent. So I do apologize for that. It happens sometimes. It slips my mind. My bad. But anyway, that's that. George now enlists Travis's help mending a fence. It tells Travis about a massive herd of infected on a nearby marina and basically predicts that it's only a matter of time before the herd finds them. Travis asks why George, isn't fleeing, and he basically says, we all die. It's a question of surrender or survival, acceptance or denial. Basically saying, do we want to give up? Do we want to keep surviving? Do we accept that we're going to die? Or do we just deny that we're going to die? And he sort of just accepts, you know what I mean? That's how I figure it. He sort of survives and accepts that he eventually will die because he wants to die on his land. He doesn't want to leave. And that's the stupid and naive thing about this character, George, is that he doesn't think anything is worth fighting for. You know what I mean? He wants to survive for as long as possible, and if worse comes to worse, fuck it. You know what I mean? We'll just take these power pills, which again, we get to see, that here in a second. So Alicia visits the ranger station and draws her boyfriend's Matt's tattoo on a bulletin board. The spiral heart thing that he drew on her arm. She draws that on the bulletin board. Nick looks for drugs in the Geary house and finds a baggie full of pills hidden in George's office inside of a globe. And they are not good-looking pills. I think these are the power pills that they're actually talking about. And we get to see, his concern a little later. So, back in the Abigail, the ship finally disappears from the radar. Strand announces that it's time to sail, everything like that. Madison tells Melissa that they're setting sail and asks Melissa, if she hadn't intentionally flashed the light to signal them. And she basically admits that she signaled them in hopes that they would take Harry and Willa away, the 2 little kids, right? So they would have a chance. Because George and Seth are planning for the entire family to die together on the island. Whether or not it'll come sooner or later, point is they're going to die and the kids are not going to have a life. Because George and Seth want to die on that land. Madison relays Melissa's request to Travis and insists that they rescue Harry and Willa. Assuring Travis, you're not taking them, Travis. You're saving them. And Travis reluctantly agrees to speak with George. Daniel searches the wheelhouse while Strand is gone. He finds a map of Baja, Mexico, or Baja, rather, my bad. Mispronounced it. Baja, Mexico, inside of a locked compartment. Strand alone now talks to someone on his satellite phone, and he says, "It's all clear now. Sundown, I'll be there." So now we actually get to see that he was actually talking to somebody. He wasn't just talking to himself last episode. He's actually talking to somebody. We just don't know who it is. Is it a personal friend? Is it family? Is it some sort of military mercenary group? We don't know. You know what I mean? We have no idea at this point. But there's definitely a few theories out there, and we'll get into that, this Thursday on my episode predictions video of the next episode, which, by the way, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I'll try to pronounce it a little later. On the boat now, Nick tells Madison and Travis that he found poison in George's office and predicts that George is planning on basically, Jonestowning his family, if you will. That was a quote he used. I thought it was kind of cool. And they're all concerned now. Travis doesn't really want to talk to, George anymore because he's afraid that it'll alert him. So the best course of action, in his opinion, is to just take the kids. So that's what he's going to try to do. So Travis and Madison and Nick return to the Geary house to basically take Harry and Willa. Melissa is explaining some of her children's quirks and everything like that when George comes in. He angrily demands to know what's happening when the argument is interrupted by Harry. The little boy comes downstairs, declares that something is wrong with Willa, and they go upstairs, and Willa is found dead, unfortunately, after ingesting those quote-unquote power pills from that stash that Nick unfortunately found. And the little girl walked in on Nick when he was putting him back in the globe and putting him back on top of the thing, right? So there was a poll on Talking Dead basically saying, was it Nick's fault that the little girl Willa found those pills? Absolutely, it was 100% his fault, but it wasn't on purpose, you know what I mean? He was searching because he felt something wrong was going on, and he was 100% correct. Now, should he have just put it back in the globe and put it back where he found it? Maybe not. Maybe he should have taken it. If he knew it was poison, maybe he should have taken it and, threw it in the water or something. You know what I mean? We don't know. We don't know what could have been. But unfortunately, the little girl found the pills and unfortunately took them, ate them and stuff like that. And she's found dead on the floor. Melissa cradles Willa, basically, who turns instantly. Her eyes go all milky white and really creepily. It was super cool to see that. You know what I mean? We haven't really seen a kid walker in the Walking Dead universe, The Walking Dead or Fear. We haven't seen a kid walker until now, and I thought it was really, really well done. Because she still looked human. Other than the eyes being like milky white, she still looked human. And she basically reached up, ripped Melissa's neck out, just started eating her and everything like that. George agrees to let Travis take Harry, but refuses to join them. So they take Harry, go on the boat, and as they're on the boat with Harry, Seth chases them down with his rifle and forces them to give Harry back. Melissa, who's now infected, walks towards them on the dock, and Seth shoots Melissa while Harry's back is turned. Okay, so Harry is unfortunately staying there on the island with Seth. Whether or not we're going to see any more of those, people, we just don't know. Don't really, think that's going to happen anytime soon. They are the only two left at this point because George actually stayed up in the room with his dead little girl and, now his dead wife. Her throat's sort of on the floor. So we can assume that he's sort of died too. We don't know. We've never seen his death, but we can definitely assume. And they are the only two left, you know what I mean? Whether or not Harry and Seth will survive, we might see them a little later. We don't know. But as for right now, he got his brother back, and they sailed off on the Abigail and everything like that, and they sort of just stayed there on the dock. And that was essentially it. So that's the episode, guys. That was the episode review of yesterday's episode of Fear the Walking Dead, which again was Season 2, Episode 2, entitled We All Fall Down. One of the better episodes of Fear the Walking Dead so far. Really, really did enjoy it. Hopefully you guys did as well. Share me, your opinions and everything like that in the comment section below. I'm definitely interested to hear about that. Tune in this Thursday for my episode prediction video for this week's up-and-coming episode of Fear the Walking Dead, my bad. Force of habit. Of Fear the Walking Dead, Season 2, Episode 3, which I'm trying to pronounce. It's called Ouroboros. I'm not too sure. You know what I mean? It'll be in the title on Thursday. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I think it's Ouroboros. Maybe I'll look it up, see if I can find the, correct pronunciation of it. I'm not sure. right? So I have no idea. Not a clue. Anyway, I'll see you guys then. And if you watch any of my other content, I will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, bye everybody.